moments of awkward silence before the stream starts. So, let's just jump into our next unboxing stream. This is going to be a little bit different than last time. Last time, I was literally pulling everything out of the shrink for the first time and kind of looking at it that way. That's not going to be the case for these games today. In fact, 3 of the 4 things I'm going to be showing are already punched. Some of that reason is like this potion explosion I actually got used from my friendly local game store. This is going to be a little bit more like the point of order articles that I put up, including the one that I put up today, about this set of games that I'm going to be looking through, and just kind of walk through these games, show them off, and talk about why I was interested in picking them up. I think that's going to be a fun little twist on stuff, and I do want for like the big games like the Dice Throne Adventures, Dwellings of Eldervale, Tainted Grails, I do want to still do those unboxings, like the first time I see any of it, that stuff. But sometimes there's going to be stuff like this where I have a used game and it's going to be part of what I talk about. So, as I dive into that, we obviously have to start first with the beer. So this is King Sue, a double IPA by Toppling Goliath Brewing out of Decorah, Iowa. And this is a big, bold beer. Like, this is a strong double IPA. Fairly strong anyways. I'm not sure what the actual ABV is on this, but it's really good flavor. Just a very good overall beer, and I just got like a nice whiff of the hops wafting up to me, and I've had this one before, clearly, but it is still so good. Fairly often with like double IPAs, it can be too sweet. So when a lot of people think of IPAs, you think about the bitterness and you think about the hops. So a double IPA, a lot of people think, okay, that means that it's more hops, but that isn't necessarily the case. So to compare it to another type of beer, this will be the little free beer lesson to start everything out. We have our Belgian beers. We have your regular Belgian, your double, and your triple. And that's a similar progression that we have for IPAs. And those, they're just stronger and stronger beers. And that's what it is. Like, a double IPA doesn't necessarily have any more hops to it than a regular IPA would. It has more malt. With more malt, there's more alcohol created. More alcohol created, obviously, the higher ABV is going to have. Now, my knock on a lot of double IPAs is that they end up being too sweet because the malt flavor, which is a sweeter flavor, takes over. And I don't mind a sweet beer, but I don't want it in my IPA, really. Like, I want, if something says it's an IPA, EPA, or a pale ale, I want to get that hops. And too often on double IPAs, you get some hops, but you get so much malt that it kind of counteracts that. This one, on the other hand, does a really good job of balancing that out. It keeps the body of the beer quite light, which is again another thing that I look for in an IPA. And it has a lot of like those grapefruity type notes to it, which really cuts through something sweet. And like I'm the type of person who, when I eat a grapefruit, it's just cut it in half and scoop out the bits of the grapefruit. I don't put sugar or anything on it like some people do. I mean, I will. You give me a lemon wedge, I will gladly eat it. I love those really sour, bitter things. And this one does a good job of that. But I've spent 5 minutes talking about beer, and we have 4 board game things to go through. So let's talk about our games. We have Potion Explosion, and if you have any questions and you're watching it live, you can let me know in the chat, or you can let me know later over in the comment section. So let's flip this open. Potion Explosion, which it has an app, really feels like an app game in a lot of ways. We have a huge stack of marbles here, and these marbles, grab a few. Okay, that should give me a good combo. Drop down into that chute, and you'll have a full setup of marbles in here. On your turn, you can do a few different things. There are some negative tokens that you can take, but really the main thing you're doing is you're pulling on marbles. So like I pulled up that one. That caused those 2 blue marbles to hit together. Because they're like colors, I pull them out as well. This game really has such a fun toy factor to it. And then you're trying to complete these different potions that do things. So this potion, you need 2 yellows and 3 blues. Gives you some points, which you can't really see. Maybe up there in the corner. But then this side of the potion tells you that you can use it. So once you've brewed it, you flip it, you can now use it. This one allows you to steal other people's or ingredients that they have left over. So like if I have some left over, I could drop them in there. Somebody plays this, they take all of them off. It's a really fun game. This game has so much toy factor to it, and it actually has a really good app implementation as well for it. So if the game does look interesting to you, and this thing could be a little bit more solid, I'm going to see how well I like it. I might glue it together to reinforce it. I've seen woodcut ones that look amazing for it, and I've seen 3D printed ones that look pretty good. Obviously 3D printed is going to be the strongest of all of them, but man, those wooden ones look amazing. And I mean, it's really a very simple game to play, but so much fun to deal with. Like it is just a blast to play. And so I picked this one up used at my friendly local game store. I had traded in a couple of games there, and I was really close to getting a free game from their rewards program. So Potion Explosion is one of the games that I used to get myself closer to it. Also with Potion Explosion, I picked up the expansion. Somebody had traded in one of the expansions used, and this one you can see we have some white dice, have some new potions that can be brewed, which I think is going to give the game some interesting replayability. Some teachers. Now, I have no idea what these teachers do, but the regular potion explosion is a very simple, straightforward game. This one looks like it will add in a touch more, and I'm excited to see how this plays. I don't think it looks like it's going to be too complicated. I'm assuming these marbles get added in and do something completely different, which is a lot of fun. And I'm assuming the professors give you powers that you can use as well. Huh. Some interesting stuff looks like going on with those new ones. Oh yeah, and you can see back here, you can kind of see like, okay, here are 4 different potions that can be added in. You play only ever with 6 potions, so these just give you more options, and I really like it. Well, I like the fact that these can be added in, it looks like, whenever. So it's not something that I need to play with the professors. If I just want to change up the simple base game, I can add in some different ones of these. And I just love the goofy artwork on this. It feels as chaotic and energetic as playing the game is. Now, the game isn't super necessarily chaotic, but it is very energetic. Just pulling a marble and listening to the marbles like click together is a lot of fun. I'm not sure if it's still on sale, but last week Horrible Games had the app on sale for 99 cents. I think it's normally $4.99. And it is a really fun app. It's a very good implementation of this game. I mean, this game has a bit of that. It feels like an app. So, the next game I picked up, and this is the one that got me enough so that I could get a free game at my FLGS, All Systems Go, here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is Quacks of Quedlinburg. So, Quacks of Quedlinburg has been one of the kind of bigger games in the past few years. This is one of those games that everybody talks about and everybody plays. It's up there with like the Mind in games that people really talk about a lot. And this one's more of a bigger game. Now, I've punched this already, so I'll just show off some of it. A similar-ish theme to the Potion Explosion. This game is, again, all about brewing your potion. You guys are quacks. You are medical professionals who are not actually professionals. And it's just a fun theme for the game. And it seems like it should be fun because it's going to be a push your luck sort of game. So good. So we have all the different player boards over here. We have our score tracking sheet. And I'm going to have to figure out what this section does. Looks like this is probably the number of rounds. So it lays out everything nicely on a pretty small board with a lot of fun artwork. Now, we have much bigger player boards that are going to be the focus of what you do. Looks like 2 different sides. I don't know about what the different sides do yet. And then in here we have all sorts of ingredients for our potions, as well as the rules for those ingredients. So I think you play with all of them, and looking at it, it looks like the different rules are based potentially off of player count for some of them. Or at least like this black one here. Looks like it has a player count thing on it. But let's look at kind of the big thing that you're doing in the game. Pull open one of these. In each of these bags, we have stuff for one player. We have a little score token thing you can flip over when you hit 50 points. Have a little potion thing. Looks like a one-time use. But this is the main part. Again, these ingredients for your potion. They're in this bag, which is quite nice. I am not a petite person, so I have no problem fitting my hands in these, which is pretty good. You pull them out, and on your board, starting at 0, you place down an ingredient. So 1, just another 1, 1, and then I got a 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I bust if I get white ingredients in there over 7. So like right now, or yeah, over 7. So I have a shot at busting here, 50% shot had I pulled any more. And it's just, you decide how much you push your luck. Then at the end of a round, once everybody's done, you score some points, I believe. You get money, or you get tokens to use to buy more ingredients, and you're basically building up an engine of the fairly lucky engine as you pull from the bags each round. I think it's going to be a fun, I'm hoping not too complex game, because this seems like a game that will be nice like late into a board game night, or when everybody's kind of winding down, just being a little bit goofy and just really going for it and seeing what happens and just laughing. So let's have a little bit more beer here. The final one. And it's a big one. So, like I said, I got enough points to get a game for free as part of my rewards. This is the game that I picked. Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. This is what's known as a 4X game. Let me move myself down here, and you can see the 4 different X's. Explore, expand, wow. Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. The best known game in this genre, it's not even close, is Twilight Imperium. That is a massive, even 4th edition, that takes 4 hours plus to play. Space conquering, building up your civilization game. This is still a massive game. I would have to pull it up on Board Game Geek to see how long this game is actually supposed to go, but it's not a short one. This is going to be a game that I hope to play once a year or once every couple of years as part of like some big games. So, we have some instructions here on how to put together your capital city, towers, sea vessels, and air vessels for this game. Recommends you have some glue or tape. And yeah, I have not punched this game out yet. This is one that I'm going to find an evening, throw on a movie, throw on some TV, and do it then. We have an overview, as well as some objectives, kind of how the map works, different actions you can take, and more. And then we have they have page numbers, 20-page rulebook, so actually not terrible. And an instructional video that can also be watched, which I'm somebody who's going to read the rulebook no matter what. I did that for Gloomhaven, which has a bigger rulebook than this, I believe. But I will watch the video, and I will send out the video to anybody who's going to be playing in a game with me, because it's a lot. This is going to be a game that is a lot. So, we have our punch boards of a whole lot of things. Looks like towers, everything for the different races. We have tokens galore, whole bunch of stuff to punch out. We have these little standy bases that are for the flying ships. You set them on that. Well, let's get down to some of the other interesting things in here. Let me slide this up just a tiny bit. So we can start to see the board in here, but we have our different races. So this game does allow you to play solo. I may spend some time looking into that. I think it's a 1v1 solo thing, and it could be something I come up and stream here later. But we have our elves and capital actions, command actions, levels of the capital, it looks like, different troops, resources, some cards. I have no idea what most of this does, and I'm really excited for this. Like, this is, I love big epic games. I love big epic campaign games, but sometimes it's tricky to get all of those played. I'm currently doing Tainted Grail right now with some friends. I'm going through Jaws of the Lion with another friend, and I have a whole lot more coming. I'm just going to show off some more of these races as I talk, and sometimes I want that epic experience in a smaller bundle, and I can show off, not today, but coming up here, maybe on a stream, Lords of Hellas, and what I have for that. So we have the Orcs, just because that's another big game that is a one-off game. Lords of Hellas, since I've played it, I highly recommend it as I want a massive game that allows me to do a little bit of everything, but isn't going to be a big campaign. It still feels like an experience or a story. Finally, very boring old humans. There are expansions with more factions in it, and I'm not going to lie, I will probably pick some of those up, because very standard fantasy races here. We have elves, dwarves, orcs, and humans. Those expansions add a lot of really cool factions in. We have our board. This is a big board. I'm going to hold it up in front of me. Ugh. Started to swing, didn't want it to rip. Not sure how massive the differences are on the board. Looks like there are some. My guess is one is for the solo play, or maybe for attaching to an expansion. And then we have our minis. Two layers of minis. And some of them are just a little bit more generic minis. But this is the, what do they call it? Maybe it was on the shrink. Pretty sure these are your important, like, more leader or boss type characters. And they come painted. So there's a lot for each faction in here. Just gonna show off a few more of these guys. No. It's a bit of a stretch to reach over there. I need to get a second camera that I can flip to for close-ups. But these are really nicely done little minis. In here as well, we have some cards and tokens. Guessing stuff that we can upgrade. I'm thinking that this will be more for the, I forget which one of the X's for the 4X games is considered research. Exploit, maybe? But I'm very excited for this very big game. And if people want to see stuff punched out and put together, that is definitely something I can come back to and talk about when I get them done. This is a really cool game, really cool looking game. There are a lot of people who speak really highly of it as a 4X game. I like the fantasy theme better than I like sci-fi, which is why this is the 4X game of choice I went with. And I actually have another 4X game coming from Kickstarter. Uprising, the Curse of the something, I forget the name of it precisely. And that one's a little bit different than this. This is a fully competitive game. Basically, all 4X games are going to be competitive. That one is a cooperative game with enemies, like two enemy factions, and every player in that game must beat the score of both of those factions by the time the game ends, which is a brilliant concept because you can't you're not necessarily directly helping each other. You're each your own faction in the world, but you have to make sure that you don't accidentally encroach on somebody's territory, something like that. It looks really cool, and I'm very excited for it. But I made it half an hour, like my plan was for today. Now it's time to go have dinner. So, before I sign off, I should really do my spiel of where you can find me. And a lot of this is in the description below. But you can find me over on nerdologist.com, where I'm posting articles daily, sometimes two, fairly often two, in fact. Today, I talked about all these games we saw here, as well as I did a Back or Brick video, which is my Kickstarter-focused series, where I talk about a current Kickstarter project and whether or not I'm going to be backing it, kind of laying out some of the pros and cons of it. Then I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. That's a great way if you're forgetting to check the website and you want to find out more about the website, more about when I'm going live with these videos, which will generally be 8 p.m. on a Wednesday from here on out, by the way. So you can find me on Twitter at the Scando. The Scando is spelled THESCANDO, or on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdologists. I also have a Patreon as well. Just started that a week ago, so still just getting the word out about it. If you are interested in helping support this channel, helping support more content on the website, on the podcast, which I'll be talking about here shortly, or on this channel, please consider tossing a few dollars my way. And then, as I just mentioned, there is the podcast. I do a 10-minute or so Marvel podcast every week, basically 10 minutes or under, talking about the news, talking about recently WandaVision, and everything that's been happening on that show. But if you enjoy the MCU, you enjoy comics, stuff like that, check out the podcast. You might find it interesting. But with that, bottoms up.